What if some of this talk was written by AI? What if the entire talk was written by AI? How could you trust me? How could you know I'm capable of anything I'm about to tell you? How would you know it's true or means anything? I think ever since we kind of were hit with AI, we've asked similar questions. I remember about 4 years ago when ChatGPT entered the chat, and I, at the time, was a high school English teacher. I noticed immediately that it could write essays that I needed my students to do. So I was like, I must destroy this. I needed to get to know the tool right away. And this was actually pretty common for teachers at the time. I started working with teachers at the school district to enable AI. And over time, actually moved on to AI enablement with university professors and even companies. But none of this talk is really about AI in a way. You see, one of the things that I learned early was we might see AI, see automation, see innovation, and think that's cheating, right? We tend to first focus in on surveillance. I know, at least with teachers and in different companies, if they started to use AI, they wanted to see what the person was doing all the time. So now we've got metrics and dashboards and spreadsheets that tell us whether or not we are capable of doing something or not. And that brings me to Connor. You see, Connor was my student in ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. I knew that kid, and I had made him write a lot of essays. Sometimes they were boring, sometimes because we had rapport, they got really out there and crazy, which was great. But when ChatGPT entered my room, I actually had it generate an essay for my students. We were in a rhetoric class, we talked about what it means to really effectively speak to somebody. And when we generated an essay from my own assignment, we were very unimpressed. It had obviously been trained on some basic, patterns for writing. It didn't have very original ideas. It sounded a lot like SparkNotes mixed with Reddit, maybe. I was dissatisfied and I felt like I had proved my point to my students. We don't need the magic language machine. Connor, on the other hand, wondered something. And he wondered to the point where he stopped doing what he was supposed to be doing in class. And I had to walk over to him. We were supposed to have shut the computers already. And he was quickly typing into the chat box. He had taken his rhetoric homework sheet, Aristotle's ideas on what it meant to truly know something, and he had spun it and given context to this AI so that it became an excellent essay writer. He actually did not turn in the essay, he turned in the prompt to me. And it gave me a weird feeling at first. It was a bit of a conundrum. As teachers, we want to make sure our students grow. Ultimately, the entire school system, I would say, is at least somewhat based on the fact that we want people to have intellect, good judgment, good character. We want them to be ready for the world they're about to enter. One thing that I think about a lot is that I would teach students who were going into a world I didn't know anything about. Even before AI, I would constantly think, I don't know what the world looks like in 5 years. How can I possibly tell this student what to learn, what to evaluate on them, how to know that they're capable of something? So that started a wonder in me. How do you assess for human capability? What does that look like? See, the reason this has to do with AI is a lot of people seem to think that it overtakes their capability, or that it is going to, in some way, bring less truth or meaning to your work. And I found that your capability can be formed by judgment. As I've talked to people in different AI, at universities and with company, they keep landing on this idea that judgment is going to be the deciding factor on whether they hire a person or not, whether someone gets a better grade in a class. It's going to affect how a person is perceived and what they can do with themselves. And when I realized that, I realized we had to make judgment measurable. If my students were going to have to learn judgment, I was going to have to learn what makes judgment happen. And Connor was a good clue for me. We started to wonder in my class. We started to use a very old method called the Socratic method, and it just levels status so students can wonder out loud. There's no such thing as a wrong answer, and there are wild ideas that sometimes get taken too far, but people bring it back. We ignored another one. Relational wonder is the stuff of learning. It breeds curiosity. It turns into judgment over time, especially as you have more experience. You know, Aristotle actually thought that there were multiple types of intelligence. We think our capability lives up here, and we're offended by AI sometimes because it has this. But when we started as humans, when we were we born asking for quantifiable answers? You know, I think we're born asking for meaning, and we start to settle for things like you got an A on your test. We're born asking for meaning, and we start to settle for things like that presentation was the best presentation you've ever given. Well, that's actually pretty good, but we have dashboards. We have a lot that say what makes someone capable, but a lot of that lives up here. Aristotle believed we actually had intelligence here too, and that it was older than this. This is your character. This is your intuition. This is your street smarts. This is the stuff that your mom told you that you still can't prove, but you believe it. This is what we work with until you develop the structures here. When you're younger, developing all of those structures is important, but all throughout life, you have to keep developing each type of intelligence. The last one was here. It's about how you look at people and think, maybe right now we don't do this, maybe later. Or I think I have the right thing to say to you in this moment. What does that have to do with judgment and success in AI? I've worked in AI enablement for a while with, again, companies and educators alike. And I've seen some amazing, innovative approaches to AI. But I've also seen overwhelmingly people who are using AI as a shortcut, which is great. I don't want to write, all of my emails either, I suppose, if I don't have to. But are we using the newest technology that has come across our table in a long time to speed up our processes? Then what? You're super fast at your job. Are you growing? Are you capable? Where are you going? Right? Capability is what you continue to gain. Capability does not stop. You become more capable. You develop judgment. You wonder things and you walk into curiosity for the sake of just wanting to know something, wanting to know if you could do it. You wonder and take risks with the people around you and share your ideas because you feel safe enough to do it around people who help you feel like you belong, like you're competent already. It's okay if you're wrong. We innovate that way. That is our human element. Aristotle, again, he thought wonder was the core thing that precedes curiosity, comes way before judgment, comes way before you even have an answer. We now live in an economy where answers are cheap. But I don't believe we were ever born caring about answers that much. I think we were born in wanting to pursue the ultimate question, to pursue life, meaning, happiness. None of those are going to be answered by ChatGPT, and they might never be answered, but humans will wonder about them and they will innovate because of that. So, yeah, I hope when you go forward, as we are evaluating someone, whether it's Connor, who's somewhere out there now, prompt engineering, by the way, by using his rhetoric worksheets, or no matter where you go, I hope you make a commitment not just to continue that sense of wonder in yourself. We haven't when we're kids. We are compliance driven out of it. We are forced out of it, or we convince ourselves we don't need it anymore. Bring wonder back to your life. Let that half-finished thought bug you for a while. Feel emotional when you finally solve something that no one's ever thought of before. It feels fantastic, and it is the stuff of life, the stuff of progress, and the stuff of society. Yeah. Thank you.